The door stayed locked for years. No dust, no noise, no reason. One night while my husband slept, curiosity won. I turned the handle slowly, holding my breath. The smell alone told me I should never have entered. My dear listeners, before we step into this story, let me ask you something simple. If real-life stories and the fight for truth matter to you, please subscribe, like the video, and tell me in the comments, from which city are you listening? I read every comment, and it's incredible to see this little family growing across cities and communities. All right, settle in. Your story begins now. Let me take you back to when I thought the locked door was just an eccentricity, when I believed my husband's explanation without question. My name is Lauren, 31 years old, medium brown skin with natural hair I kept in shoulder-length locks, usually pulled back in a ponytail or bun. I worked as a physical therapist at a rehabilitation center in Chicago, making $79,000 a year, helping patients recover from injuries and surgeries. Rewarding work that I loved. I lived in a large Victorian house in the Beverly neighborhood on the South Side with my husband Derek, $3,200 mortgage every month. The house was beautiful but old, built in 1924, 3 stories, original hardwood floors, crown molding, but also creaky stairs and temperamental plumbing. We'd been married for 18 months, together for 3 years total. Derek was 34, dark-skinned with a shaved head and well-groomed beard, worked as an architect at a firm downtown making about $104,000 annually. Tall, quiet, methodical in everything he did. We met at a coffee shop in Hyde Park. I was studying for a certification exam. He was sketching building designs. Started talking about the architecture of the neighborhood, exchanged numbers, went on our first date 2 days later to Valois Cafeteria, $34.67 for both of us. Got married in a small ceremony at the Chicago Cultural Center, $11,500 total for everything. When we bought the house in June 2 years ago, Derek was specific about one thing. His father's old room on the 3rd floor was off-limits. My dad lived with me before he passed, Derek explained on our first walkthrough of the house. The realtor was showing us the 2nd-floor bedrooms, 3 of them, all spacious with good light. After he died, I kept his room exactly as it was. I'm not ready to go through his things yet. When did he pass? I asked gently. 4 years ago, heart attack, he was only 62. I'm so sorry, baby. Of course we'll leave his room as is. Take all the time you need. We climbed the narrow stairs to the 3rd floor, just one room up there, tucked under the sloped roof with dormer windows. The door was closed, painted white like all the others, with a brass knob and a deadbolt lock. This was his space, Derek said, not opening the door. He liked having his own floor, his privacy. The room's locked and I'd prefer it stays that way. Just, don't go in there, okay? Of course, I understand grief takes time. The realtor looked uncomfortable but didn't comment. We bought the house 2 weeks later for $487,000. We moved in on July 15th, a Saturday, temperature at 86 degrees, humid and sticky. Hired movers, $1,250 for the day, got all our furniture and boxes inside by 6:47 p.m. The house was bigger than anywhere either of us had lived. So much space after my old 1-bedroom apartment and his 2-bedroom condo. I noticed Derek checking the 3rd floor door that first night. After the movers left and we'd ordered pizza for dinner, $43.89 from Lou Malnati's, he went upstairs. I followed him, curious about what he was doing. Found him standing outside the locked door on the 3rd floor, hand on the knob, testing it. Everything okay? I asked. He startled slightly. Yeah, just making sure it's still locked. Don't want anyone accidentally getting in there. Who would get in? It's just us. I know, it's habit, checking on it. Over the first few months in the house, I noticed Derek going up to that 3rd floor regularly. Every few days, sometimes twice a day. Always just standing there, checking the lock, sometimes pressing his ear to the door like he was listening for something. Baby, what are you doing up there? I asked one evening in September. I'd come home from work at 6:34 p.m. to find him upstairs again, standing outside that white door. Nothing, just checking. Checking what? That everything's okay, that the room is secure. Derek, it's been locked for 4 years, it's secure. I know, I just need to make sure. It seemed odd, but grief is complicated. I let it go. But then I started noticing other things. The door had no dust on it. Every other surface in that old house collected dust within days, the baseboards, the windowsills, the top of picture frames. But that third-floor door was always clean. Spotless, actually. "Do you dust that door?" I asked Derek one weekend in October. We were cleaning the house together, me vacuuming the second floor while he supposedly organized his home office. "Sometimes, when I go up there to check on it." "Why dust a door to a room? No one's going in." "I don't know, Lauren. Does it matter?" "No, I guess not. It's just odd. Can we drop this, please?" His tone was sharp. Not angry exactly, but defensive in a way that made me uncomfortable. I also noticed that despite the door being locked for 4 years, supposedly untouched since his father died, there were no cobwebs around it. The rest of the third floor had spiders, dust, the accumulated neglect of a space not regularly used. But around that door, nothing. Like someone cleaned there frequently. In November, I heard sounds from that room. I was home alone on a Tuesday afternoon, my day off, folding laundry in our bedroom on the second floor at 2:17 p.m. The house was quiet except for the furnace running and the occasional creak of old wood settling. Then I heard footsteps above me. On the third floor, I froze, laundry basket in my hands, listened carefully. Definitely footsteps. Slow, deliberate walking across the room up there. But Derek was at work. He wouldn't be home until after 6:00 p.m. And no one else had keys to our house. I grabbed my phone, ready to call 911, crept to the second floor stairs. Listened. The footsteps had stopped, everything was silent. Slowly, quietly, I climbed the narrow stairs to the third floor, stood outside the locked white door, put my ear against it, listened. Nothing, complete silence. I tried the doorknob. Still locked. Maybe I'd imagined it. Old houses make strange sounds. Pipes settling, temperature changes, that's all it was. But when Derek came home that evening at 6:52 p.m., I mentioned it anyway. "I heard footsteps on the third floor today, while you were at work." His face went carefully blank. "You probably heard the house settling. These old Victorians make all kinds of noise." It sounded like footsteps, like someone walking. "Lauren, there's no one up there. The room is locked and I have the only key." "Where do you keep the key?" "On my keyring. Why?" "Just curious. Maybe I should have a copy. In case of emergency." "There won't be an emergency, and I'd prefer you didn't have a key. I told you, I'm not ready for anyone to go in there." "It's been 4 years, Derek. At some point we need to." I said I'm not ready. He walked away, conversation over. I stood in our living room feeling dismissed and confused. What was in that room that he was so protective of? Over the next few weeks, the sounds continued. Always when I was home alone. Footsteps. Sometimes what sounded like furniture moving. Once, a thump like something heavy had fallen. I mentioned it to my best friend Shanice when we met for lunch on December 8th at Bronzeville Winery, $67.43 for both of us. She had her hair in braids, wore a green sweater and jeans, worked as a teacher making $58,000. "Girl, that's creepy," she said after I told her about the locked room and the sounds. "What do you think is in there?" "I don't know. He says it's his father's belongings." For 4 years. He hasn't gone through his dead father's belongings in 4 years. He says he's not ready. Or he's hiding something. Like what? I don't know. But Lauren, people don't keep rooms locked for years for no reason. And if there are sounds coming from in there. I know. I'm thinking maybe I should just look, while he's at work. Does he have the only key? He says he does, keeps it on his keyring. Can you get it copied? How? He takes his keys to work every day. Take them while he's sleeping. Go to a 24-hour key place, get a copy made, put them back before he wakes up. It felt wrong, sneaking around behind my husband's back, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The locked door, the frequent checking, the sounds, the way he reacted when I asked questions. On December 15th, a Saturday night, I made my move. Derek had been working on a big project all week, coming home exhausted. We had dinner at 7:30 p.m. Chicken stir-fry I made, $31.89 in groceries from Jewelosco, watched a movie, went to bed at 11:45 p.m. Derek was asleep by midnight. I could hear his deep, steady breathing, the soft snore he made when he was really out. At 1:23 a.m., I carefully slid out of bed, tiptoed to his nightstand where he'd left his keys, picked them up slowly, carefully, holding them so they wouldn't jingle. He didn't stir. I went downstairs, got my coat and boots on, drove to a 24-hour Walmart 6 blocks away. Went to the key-cutting counter at 1:47 a.m., handed the clerk Derek's entire keyring. "Just need copies of these two," I said, pointing to the house key and what looked like it might be the deadbolt key for that third-floor door. "No problem. $10 total, take about 5 minutes." While he cut the keys, I kept glancing at my phone, paranoid that Derek would wake up, notice his keys were gone, call me wondering where I was. But my phone stayed silent. Got the copies at 1:54 a.m., drove home, crept back into our bedroom at 2:08 a.m. Derek was still sleeping in the exact same position. I carefully placed his keyring back on his nightstand, hid my new keys in my coat pocket, climbed back into bed. My heart was racing. I'd done it. I had a key. But I didn't use it right away, waited for the right opportunity. When Derek wouldn't be home, when I'd have enough time to look and get out before he returned. That opportunity came on December 19th, a Wednesday. Derek had an all-day meeting with a client in the suburbs, said he'd be gone from 8:00 a.m. until at least 6:00 p.m. I'd requested the day off weeks earlier, holiday shopping and errands I'd told my boss. Derek left at 7:52 a.m. I waited until 8:30 a.m. to be sure he wasn't coming back for something he'd forgotten. Then I climbed those narrow stairs to the third floor, my new keys in my trembling hand, stood outside that white door, took a deep breath, told myself maybe there really was just his father's belongings in there. Old furniture, clothes, boxes of photos, nothing sinister. I put the regular key in the deadbolt. It turned, clicked open. Then I tried the doorknob. It was locked separately. I used the second key. It turned too. The door opened. The smell hit me immediately. Not decay, not death like I'd feared for a split second, but something worse in its way, antiseptic. Bleach, cleaning chemicals, that hospital smell of things being constantly sanitized. And underneath that chemical smell was something else. Something organic and wrong that the bleach couldn't quite cover. The room was dark. I felt along the wall for a light switch, found one, flipped it on. What I saw made my knees weak. The room wasn't a memorial to Derek's father. It was. I didn't know what it was at first. My brain couldn't process what I was seeing. The space was maybe 15 by 20 feet, with sloped ceilings from the dormer windows. But those windows were covered completely, not with curtains, but with black material nailed directly into the wall frames. No light from outside. The walls were painted white but stained in places. Brown stains that looked like they'd been scrubbed at repeatedly but couldn't quite be removed. There was a bed. A twin bed with a bare mattress that was covered in plastic. The kind of mattress cover you'd use for a child who wet the bed. Next to the bed was a metal pole, a medical IV pole with bags hanging from it. Empty now, but clearly used recently based on the plastic tubing still attached. Against one wall was a locked cabinet. Medical supplies visible through the glass doors, syringes, vials of medication, bandages, gloves, a mini fridge in the corner humming quietly. I didn't want to open it, didn't want to see what was inside. But what made my stomach turn, what made me back toward the door, was the camera. A small camera mounted in the corner of the ceiling, pointed at the bed. The little red light was on. Recording, this wasn't a memorial. This was, what? A prison? A hospital room? What had Derek been doing in here? I heard a voice and nearly screamed before realizing it was coming from my phone. A text notification. I pulled it out with shaking hands. Derek. Hey babe, meeting's running ahead of schedule. Might be home by 4 instead of 6. Love you. It was 9:47 a.m. I had time, but I needed to see more, needed to understand what this room was. I walked further inside, even though every instinct told me to run. Opened the mini fridge. Inside were more medication vials, some water bottles, Ensure nutritional drinks, the kind you'd give someone who couldn't eat solid food. Opened the drawers in the medical cabinet. It wasn't actually locked, just looked like it from a distance. Inside were restraints. The soft kind they use in hospitals, but restraints nonetheless. Piles of latex gloves, syringes, needles, medication labels I didn't recognize, and at the bottom of one drawer a folder, papers inside. I pulled it out, opened it. Medical records, not for Derek's father. For someone named Michael Thompson. Birth date making him currently 28 years old. Diagnosis, severe traumatic brain injury following a car accident 6 years ago. Prognosis, permanent vegetative state, requires round-the-clock care. There were care notes in Derek's handwriting. Dates, times, medications administered, vital signs checked. The most recent entry was from yesterday. December 18th, 8:30 p.m. Patient stable. Fed via tube. Repositioned to prevent bed sores. Medications administered as prescribed. Patient. There was a patient in this room. Someone Derek was caring for secretly. Someone named Michael Thompson who'd been here. I did the math. Michael's accident was 6 years ago. Derek said he bought this house 5 years ago, said his father died 4 years ago. But these medical records went back 5 years. Had there ever been a father living in this room? Or had it always been Michael? I heard a sound behind me and spun around, but there was no one there. The room was empty except for the bed, the equipment, the camera recording everything. Where was Michael now? If Derek was caring for someone in a vegetative state, where was that person? I took photos of everything with my phone. The room, the equipment, the medical records, the camera. Then I carefully put everything back exactly how I'd found it, turned off the light, locked both locks, went downstairs on shaking legs, called Shanice immediately. I went in the room. And it's not his father's stuff. It's some kind of medical room, hospital equipment. Someone's been keeping a patient up there, someone in a vegetative state. What? Lauren, that's insane. Who? The medical records say Michael Thompson. Brain injury from a car accident 6 years ago. Shanice, Derek's been taking care of this person. For years. In secret. Where is this person now? I don't know. The room is empty, but the equipment is all there, looks recently used. And there's a camera, recording everything. You need to call the police. And tell them what? My husband has medical equipment in a locked room. That's not illegal if he's providing care to someone. It's illegal if he's holding someone against their will. We don't know that. Maybe Michael's family asked Derek to care for him. Maybe it's all legitimate. Lauren, if it was legitimate, why keep it secret? Why lie about it being his father's room? She was right, but I needed to talk to Derek first. Needed to hear his explanation before I did anything drastic. I spent the rest of the day in a daze. Tried to do normal things, went grocery shopping, wrapped Christmas presents, made dinner. But my mind kept going back to that room. The hospital bed, the restraints, the camera, the medical records. Derek came home at 4:37 p.m. like he'd texted, earlier than expected. Kissed my cheek, asked how my day off was. Good. Productive, got some shopping done. That's great, what's for dinner? I made pot roast, should be ready in about 20 minutes. We ate dinner at our dining room table at 5:15 p.m. Pot roast, mashed potatoes, green beans, $47.21 in groceries. Made small talk about his meeting, about my shopping, about plans for Christmas next week. After dinner, Derek went to his home office to finish some work. Said he'd be about an hour. I waited until I heard him on a phone call with a colleague, then I climbed those stairs to the 3rd floor again. Stood outside the white door, put my ear against it, listened, and I heard it, breathing, mechanical breathing, the rhythmic hiss and whoosh of a ventilator. Someone was in there, right now, while Derek was downstairs on the phone. My hands were shaking as I put the key in the deadbolt, turned it slowly, quietly. Then the second key in the doorknob, turned it. Opened the door just a crack. The mechanical breathing got louder. I pushed the door open wider, turned on the light. The bed wasn't empty anymore. There was a person in it. A young black man, thin eyes closed, breathing tube in his throat connected to a ventilator beside the bed. His arms were restrained to the bed rails with the soft restraints I'd seen in the drawer. An IV bag dripped something into his arm. This was Michael Thompson, and he was alive. Unconscious, but alive. I stood frozen, staring at this man I didn't know who'd been living on my 3rd floor without my knowledge. How long had Derek been sneaking up here to care for him? How had I not known? What are you doing in here? Derek's voice behind me. I spun around. He stood in the doorway, face pale, jaw clenched. Who is this? I managed to ask. I told you not to come in here. Who is this person, Derek? Who is Michael Thompson, and why is he in our house? How do you know his name? I found his medical records. I've seen everything. The equipment, the medications, the care notes. You've been keeping someone in a vegetative state in our house for years, without telling me. Your wife. You had no right to go through his records. I had no right. This is my house, too. There's a person living here I didn't know about. You lied to me. You said this was your father's room. I couldn't tell you the truth. You wouldn't understand. Then make me understand, right now. Who is Michael Thompson? Derek walked into the room, checked Michael's vitals on the monitor beside the bed, adjusted his IV drip, moved with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd done this thousands of times. Michael was my partner, he finally said, not looking at me. We were together for 3 years before the accident. My stomach dropped. Your partner? Derek, you told me you'd never been in a serious relationship before me. I lied. Michael and I were together, lived together. We're planning to get married. What happened? Car accident. Drunk driver hit him head-on. He was in a coma for 3 months. When he woke up, he was like this. Vegetative state. The doctors said he'd never recover. Said I should pull the plug, let him go. But you didn't. I couldn't, he's still alive. His heart beats, he breathes. How could I just kill him? So you've been caring for him, for 6 years. 5 years in this house. Before that, we were in an apartment, but I needed more space, needed somewhere private where no one would question why I had medical equipment. His family has no idea he's alive. They signed the papers to take him off life support 4 years ago, had a funeral. But I couldn't let him die, Lauren. I moved him here, told everyone I'd handled his final wishes, told his family the hospital took care of everything. I sat down on the floor, my legs unable to hold me up anymore. You faked his death. I saved his life. There's a difference. You kept him hidden for 5 years. You lied to his family. You lied to me. Derek, this is illegal. This is kidnapping. It's not kidnapping. He's not being held against his will. He has no will. He's in a permanent vegetative state. But his family has a legal right. They wanted to kill him. They signed the papers to turn off his machines. I'm the only one who cared enough to keep him alive. And me, where do I fit into this? You married me while keeping your dying boyfriend in our attic. He finally looked at me. I moved on, Lauren. I couldn't spend the rest of my life alone waiting for Michael to wake up. But I also couldn't let him die, so I compartmentalized. I have a life with you downstairs. I have my duty to Michael up here. That's not how marriage works. You don't get to have a secret person you're caring for. What did you think would happen? That I'd just never find out. I thought I could keep managing it, the way I had been. Check on him before you wake up, check on him while you're at work, check on him after you go to sleep. You'd never have to know. But I did find out. I heard the sounds. I saw you checking this door obsessively. I knew something was wrong. And now what? Are you going to call the police? Have me arrested? Taken away from the person who needs me most? Michael's not the person who needs you most. I'm your wife. I should come first. But you're healthy. You're fine. Michael will die without me. Michael should have died 4 years ago if that was his family's wish and his medical reality. Derek, you can't keep someone alive against nature and against their family's wishes just because you don't want to let go. I'm not letting him go. Then you're letting me go instead, because I can't stay married to someone who's been lying to me about something this massive, who's been caring for his ex-boyfriend in secret while building a life with me. I stood up, walked toward the door. Derek grabbed my arm. Lauren, please don't leave. We can figure this out. Figure what out? How I'm supposed to be okay with this? I'm not okay with this, Derek. None of this is okay. I pulled away from him, went downstairs, grabbed my purse and coat, got in my car and drove to Shanice's apartment. Called her from the car at 8:47 p.m. I need to stay with you tonight. I'll explain when I get there. I told her everything over tea in her living room at 9:34 p.m. The locked room, the medical equipment, Michael Thompson in a vegetative state, Derek caring for him for 5 years, the faked death, the lies. Girl, you need to call the police right now, Shanice said. This is beyond just marital problems. This is falsifying a death, fraud, possibly kidnapping. But Michael's family signed papers to take him off life support. Maybe Derek is saving him. Or maybe Derek is keeping someone alive who should have been allowed to die naturally. And either way, that's not a decision he gets to make alone. That's not legal, Lauren. I knew she was right, but calling the police on my own husband felt impossible. That night, I barely slept. Derek called 16 times, sent 29 text messages. I didn't answer or read them. Just lay in Shanice's guest bed staring at the ceiling, trying to process that my entire marriage had been built on a lie. The next morning, December 20th, I called a lawyer. Barbara Mitchell, recommended by Shanice's cousin, $3,800 retainer for family law cases. Her office was downtown, professional and clean. "Tell me what's going on," she said after we sat down at 10:47 a.m. I told her everything. She took notes, her expression getting more serious with every detail. "This is complicated legally," she said when I finished. "Your husband has been providing medical care to someone without proper legal guardianship, has deceived that person's family about their status, and has committed fraud by falsifying death records. Those are serious crimes. What happens if I report it? He'll likely be arrested, charged with fraud, possibly kidnapping depending on how the prosecutor sees it. Michael Thompson will be turned over to his family or the state. There will be a media circus. This is the kind of story news outlets love. And our marriage. Do you want to stay married to him?" I thought about it, about Derek lying to me for our entire relationship, about him caring for someone else while pretending to build a life with only me, about choosing a dying man over his living wife. "No," I said, "I don't think I do." "Then I recommend you file for divorce and report the situation to authorities. Separate yourself legally before the criminal charges come down." I filed a police report that afternoon at 2:17 p.m., told Detective Raymond Cooper everything, showed him the photos I'd taken of the room, the medical records, explained about Michael Thompson and his family thinking he was dead. "We'll need to go to the house," Detective Cooper said. He was a black man in his 40s, serious expression, kind eyes. "See the situation firsthand. Derek will be home from work by 6. We'll go now. Is there anyone else at the house?" "Just Michael. Derek should be at work until after 5. 3 police officers and Detective Cooper came with me to the house at 3:47 p.m. I let them in with my key, led them up those narrow stairs to the 3rd floor, unlocked the white door with the keys I'd copied. Michael was still there, still breathing mechanically, still unconscious, still restrained to the bed. "Jesus Christ," one of the officers breathed. They documented everything. Took photos, collected the medical records, called an ambulance to transport Michael to a proper hospital. EMTs arrived at 4:23 p.m., carefully disconnected Michael from Derek's equipment, loaded him onto a stretcher. "We're taking him to Northwestern Memorial," one EMT told Detective Cooper. "Their ICU can handle his care level. Hospital social services will contact his family." Derek came home at 5:52 p.m. to find police cars in our driveway. He walked in the front door and Detective Cooper arrested him immediately. "Derek Hayes, you're under arrest for fraud, falsifying death records, and providing medical care without proper licensure or guardianship. You have the right to remain silent." Derek didn't look at me as they cuffed him, didn't say anything, just let them lead him to the police car while neighbors came out onto their porches to watch. The story hit the news that evening. "Man kept partner alive in secret attic room for 5 years. Derek's photo, my house, speculation about how no one had known. My name was mentioned. Hayes's wife of 18 months had no knowledge of the situation, and reporters started calling my phone. I turned it off, stayed at Shanice's, filed for divorce on December 22nd through Barbara Mitchell. Michael Thompson's family was contacted on December 21st. His mother collapsed when she found out her son was alive. Had been alive all this time while she'd been grieving him. They rushed to Northwestern Memorial, saw him for the first time in 5 years. They made the decision with doctors' input to remove life support on December 27th. Michael died at 3:17 p.m. surrounded by his family. Had a real funeral on January 2nd. was finally allowed to rest. Derek was charged with fraud, falsifying a death certificate, providing medical care without a license, and unlawful imprisonment. His trial was set for March. His lawyer tried to argue he'd been motivated by love, by not wanting to let his partner die. The prosecutor argued he'd been motivated by an inability to accept reality, and that his actions had prevented a family from saying proper goodbyes to their son. I didn't attend the trial. Didn't want to see Derek or hear his justifications. Got updates from Detective Cooper as the case progressed. Derek was convicted on all charges on April 15th. Sentenced to 6 years in prison on April 28th. Mr. Hayes, what you did was an extreme violation of Michael Thompson's family's rights and wishes, Judge William Morrison said at sentencing. While your intentions may have been rooted in love, your actions were illegal and caused profound harm. Michael's family lost 5 years they could have spent making peace with his condition and properly saying goodbye. Instead, they were left to grieve someone they believed was dead while you kept him alive in secret. Your sentence reflects the severity of these violations. My divorce was finalized on May 3rd. I kept the house. Derek wouldn't be able to afford the mortgage from prison anyway. Got it appraised, refinanced in only my name, bought out his half of the equity with money I borrowed from my parents. Spent $6,800 renovating that third-floor room. Tore out all the medical equipment, the blackout coverings, the stained walls. Painted it a soft yellow, put in new carpet, new light fixtures. Turned it into a reading room with a cozy chair and bookshelves. Couldn't erase what had happened there, but I could transform it into something new. Started therapy with Dr. Michelle Roberts in June, a Black woman in her 50s who specialized in trauma and betrayal. Her office was in Evanston, calm and comfortable. You're grieving the person you thought you married, she said in our first session. That person doesn't exist. Derek lied about who he was from the very beginning. I keep wondering if I should have known. If there were signs I missed. He was very good at compartmentalizing, at living 2 lives. That's not something you could have detected unless you'd gone looking, and you had no reason to suspect something so extreme. By fall, 8 months after finding that room, I was building a new life. Stayed at the therapy center, got promoted to senior physical therapist in September, now making $86,000. Started dating again in October. Nothing serious, just coffee dates with men from apps, testing whether I could trust again. Met someone in November. His name was Julian, a high school teacher I met through mutual friends. We went to dinner at Girl and the Goat, $143.78 for both of us, talked for 3 hours. I was married before, I told him on our 3rd date. It ended badly. Most marriages that end do end badly, he said with a kind smile. Want to talk about it? Not yet, but eventually, yes. I'm patient, take your time. By December, 1 year after I'd opened that door, I was genuinely happy. Had a job I loved, a house that felt like mine, a new relationship with potential, friends who supported me, therapy that was healing me. The locked room was now my favorite space in the house. I'd sit up there reading on Saturday mornings with coffee and natural light streaming through the uncovered windows. Sometimes I'd think about what had been there before, the hospital bed, the restraints, Michael Thompson breathing mechanically. But mostly I just enjoyed the peace. Michael's family had reached out to me in October through their lawyer. Wanted to thank me for reporting the situation, for making sure Michael could finally rest. I met his mother, Diane, at a coffee shop in November. You gave us closure, she said, tears in her eyes. We thought we'd said goodbye 4 years ago, but we hadn't. We got to say goodbye properly because of you. I'm so sorry for what Derek did to your family. It's not your fault. You didn't know, and you did the right thing when you found out. That conversation helped, knowing that despite the pain, some good had come from me opening that door. Looking back now, I can see how that one moment of curiosity changed everything. How turning that key and opening that door exposed a lie that had shaped my entire marriage. Here's what I want you to understand. If something feels wrong, investigate. Don't let anyone make you feel like you're violating their privacy by asking reasonable questions about your own home. I should have pushed harder earlier when Derek was so protective of that room. Trust your instincts. I heard sounds, saw strange behavior, felt like something was off. I was right. Your intuition knows when something is wrong even if your conscious mind tries to rationalize it away. and know that people can compartmentalize in ways that seem impossible. Derek genuinely loved me while also caring for Michael. He wasn't lying about his feelings for me. He was just lying about everything else in his life. That kind of deception is possible, and it's not your fault if someone manages to hide it from you. Derek will be released from prison in 3 years. I'll be 34, will have moved on completely, will barely remember the woman who married him. The locked room in my house is now filled with light and books and peace, and I never ignore my instincts anymore. If a door is locked without explanation, I find the key.